an analysis of our observations over the 3 months the mission was in Nigeria from the 5th of January to the 7th of April. It also includes the 30 recommendations for electoral reforms. Such changes are critical for improved future elections. The conclusions and recommendations in our report are based on international commitments for democratic election that Nigeria has signed up to. We looked at what happened in practice on these elections and have identified where laws and practices can be strengthened. Ladies and gentlemen, before I turn to the content of our report and the recommendation of it, may I quickly recap on the size and duration of our mission and how an EU election observation mission assesses an electoral process. The first thing, of course, to say is that EU deployed an election observation mission after an invitation coming from INEC, so from Nigeria. The mission was in Nigeria for a total of 13 weeks. We had a core team of 11 experts and 40 long-term observers deployed in 20 locations around the country who went to every state in the country. In total, we had 91 observers for the presidential and National Assembly elections, 73 for the governorship and the State House of Assembly election, and 20 for the supplementary governorship election held on the 23rd of March. Our mandate was to conduct an independent and objective assessment of the electoral process in accordance with the law of Nigeria and, as I said earlier, with the international and regional commitments that with Nigeria is a signatory. Now I will give a headline summary of our overall assessment of the election. A detailed summary can be found on page 3 to 8 of the report, with more analysis in each of the chapters of this report. We can say positively that we note that the elections were competitive and parties were able to campaign with freedom of assembly, expression, and movement largely respected in the country. The very effective role played by civil society organizations in promoting election reforms and contributing to accountability of the process was very important and need to continue. However, overall, the 19 elections showed that the need for fundamental electoral reform so that future elections better serve the interest of all Nigerians. As we already noted in our preliminary statements earlier in the year, the elections were marked by severe operational and transparency shortcomings at state level. Journalists were subject to harassment, and scrutiny of the electoral process was at times compromised, with some independent observers being obstructed in their work, including by security agencies. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is an urgent need to improve the electoral process and to restore faith in the system. Without this, there is a risk of unaccountable leadership in the country, and citizens. Such electoral reform needs political leadership that is dedicated to the right of Nigerian citizens and an inclusive process of national dialogue involving state institutions, political parties, civil society, and of course the media. This needs to be urgently undertaken to allow time for debate, legislative changes, and implementation well in advance of the next election of 2023. Our report, as I said, makes 30 recommendations for consideration. They are listed in a table at the back of the report, as well as in the main body of the report. They cover all aspects of electoral process, including the legal framework for elections, the conduct of electoral administration, voter registration, the election campaign, electoral security, media, electoral dispute resolution, and the participation of women and vulnerable groups in the system. I'd like to focus on our 7 priority recommendations. First of them, with respect to INEC. Although INEC worked in difficult circumstances and made some improvements, such as simplifying voting procedures, a number of operational and procedural weaknesses identified by previous EU election observation missions were not addressed for the 2019 elections, in particular with regard to check and transparency in